Alright folks, this is my Ford E350 4x4 van, and today we're going to do a complete walk around video, and I'm going to show you guys everything that I have done to make this the ultimate Overland Adventure van. Alright guys, so as you can see, we've got a lot of stuff strewn around, pretty much garage sale laid out here. We got e-bikes and Jackeries and fire pits and awnings out. And I thought about trying to clean everything up, making it look real tidy to show you guys the van and walk around the van. But I wanted this to be real life. We've actually been in this location for about 3 days, and this is just the way it looks when I'm hanging out. All right, so there is a lot to talk about when it comes to Sasquatch. So we're gonna break this into 2 videos. We're gonna start with this video, which is going to cover all the exterior components of the van. And then we'll do a separate video that goes into the interior build. For those people that have no idea of this van or where it started, it started as just a plain 2-wheel drive E350 cargo van. I bought it off Craigslist for $2,200. It has the 5.8 liter gas motor. It has a E4OD transmission. And then I took the van to AJ's 4x4 Vans in Hillsboro, where they did the initial 4x4 conversion. We put Dana 60 up front. It has a StarLink 10 bolt in the back. It currently has a BorgWarner 4406 transfer case. They did all the bar work that you see on it, as far as you see the bumper, the side steps, and the rear bumper. They originally did the original rack, but that's been changed, and we'll talk about that a little later in the video. Up front here on the bumper, you can see we have a Warren M15S. Which is a 15,000 pound winch with synthetic rope. That has been super useful to me several times. Across the bumper here, in the way of my lighting, is I have diode dynamics. These are the flush mounts you see here, and then we got the pod lights up here, same on both sides. Across the top, we also had a diode dynamics light bar up front. I really like their lights, really good, lots of light. The exterior that you see here painted is Linex. This was done by Linex in Seaside, Oregon, and they did a great job at doing a full body coat and matching the color that I wanted. I wanted something that looked kind of desert tan, and the main reason is anytime you're using a textured paint like Linex, is that you're just never going to get it like shiny clean. As far as like mud and stuff, yeah, that stuff sprays right off, but as far as leaving like a little bit of residue that gets caught up in the texture, it's never going to look shiny clean. So by going with the desert tan, you just don't notice it, so it always looks super clean. And you know, I just really like the color. All right, so going into a little more detail about the 4x4 conversion, I've had a few things change since the original conversion. Now, originally, the conversion was done with all stock Ford F250 350 parts, so stock radius arms and stock track bar. I've had that change. I had a custom shop in Redmond, Oregon, change the radius arms. They made custom radius arms. This gave me a more positive caster, which makes the van track better down the road. And then also they changed the drag link, or not the drag link, I'm sorry, the track bar mounts, and lengthened the track bar so that it would be the same length as the drag link, so that way it would eliminate the bump steer. So the van handles much better now using those parts versus the stock Ford parts. So I am happy about that as far as handling. One other thing that I had done is I added an Auburn locker to the Dana 60 up front. So that is a selectable locker, and I can, decide when I want that locked and when I don't want the differential locked. The StarLink 10 bolt in the back has the Ford factory limited slip. I don't necessarily like that. It doesn't, always engage when I want it to. So I'm thinking that I'm going to also change that to a selectable locker in the future. Now, as far as my wheels and tires are concerned, I have the Method Racing wheels. I don't remember exactly what model number these are, but it's a special bead grip technology that they have. It's not necessarily like a bead locker where you'd have the bolts around the rim, but they do have extra ridges that kind of really grip the bead, so you can air these tires down a lot without having to worry so much about breaking the bead when you're doing that. Now, as far as the tires, I'm running an all-terrain. These are the Les Schwab Backcountry AT2s. I like them. They're a nice mixture of aggressiveness and on-road performance. They're a 12-ply tire. I prefer an AT for me just because, again, you know, 80% of the time the van is on pavement and ATs just hold up to pavement better. Plus, ATs are better when you're dealing with packed snow and ice, when you're like driving across mountain passes and things like that, than an MT. So I really just prefer ATs over MTs. Plus, I just feel like MTs wear out too quickly when you're driving on pavement and they just get bald too fast, and then pretty soon you're just on bald tires and you lose traction anyhow. I will say and agree with people that an MT is going to perform better in the slick and muck and the deep snow when I'm out in the woods. But if this van was strictly for that, then that's what I would use it for. But because, like I said, I live in the van and it's my daily driver, it just spends too much time on pavement to make it any value to have an MT on here. As far as shocks, right now I'm running the Fox 2.0 remote reservoir. I'm really liking these. The van rides really nice with these. They don't have the adjustable settings like some of the higher end shocks, but they still perform really well, and I'm happy with that upgrade. So as far as the back suspension, I'm using the Fox 2.0s back here as well with remote reservoirs. But as many of you that do follow the channel know, I went to Alcan Springs in Grand Junction, Colorado, and they custom built me a set of leaf springs for the van. This was a huge upgrade. I can't express enough how happy I am with this upgrade. The van just rides much nicer. Plus, it got rid of the block that was used to lift the van originally with the 4x4 conversion. And that just helps keep axle wrap from happening. And it just makes, like I said, it just makes the ride of the van just a lot more plush and more comfortable. All right, folks, we're going to interrupt this video really quick to talk about today's video sponsor, and that is JISULIFE. It is getting to be summer. It is getting to be hot. I've got a fixed fan in the van that helps circulate air, but it doesn't always put air right where I need it. That's where having a small portable DC fan like this JISU fan comes in super handy. I can set it up at my desk and cool myself and my laptop off when I'm working. I can set it up on Daisy at night. The fixed fan does a great job of pulling air from the back windows and sucking up through, but Daisy being down lower, she doesn't always get that air. So putting the JISU fan down directly on her helps me direct some cool air right on her, which helps her sleep through the night. It also helps me sleep in the afternoon when I want to take a little bit of a nap. All right, so the JISU fan has 3 different fan speeds. You have a low, medium, and high. You also have 3 different time settings if you don't want the fan to run all the way through the night. You have 2, 4, and 8 hours. It also has a removable base. This gives you a lot of flexibility in how you can set the fan up, and the lithium battery will ensure that you can run it all night long. One of the other features that I do like about it is it has pass-through charging, so you actually can plug it into the USB port and run it at the same time. If you guys are interested in a JISU fan for your van or camp setup, check out the links in my description for the information you need to find the fan. And now let's get back to the video. All right, so on this side of the van, a few things that you guys might be seeing is I've got my shovel and axe holder mounted to the van, so I got easy access to that. I've got a ladder going up to the rack. This ladder again was made by AJ's 4x4 vans. It has also been coated in the Line-X along with the bumpers and side steps have all been coated in Line-X. This here, a lot of people ask me about this, and this is actually for when I'm off-road. I can just keep the chainsaw right here in this mount. But if I'm, traveling some forest roads and I run into a downed tree, and I get the chainsaw down and cut that tree, there's more likely that there may be more down trees down the line. So I can just keep the chainsaw right here, and then it's easy to access if I run into any more trees. But like I said, normally it doesn't live here. It does live in its case up on the rack. So, and then here I have my shower room. Now I've got a complete video on my external shower system, so I'm not going to go into too much detail on this, but just basically I have the shower room which folds up against the rack and folds in nice. Under the hood I have a heat exchanger that basically heats water through using the coolant system, and then I've got 2 quick connects down here that I can plug into, and as you can see this menagerie down here, I can bring water over to the van, run a little DC pump, and it runs it through the van, heats the water, and then I can take a nice hot shower here on the side of the van. All right, so we're running to the back of the van. So currently I have kind of a temporary bike rack that I'm using. I did have another bike rack that worked on a swing arm that was right here, but the heavy weight of my new e-bike was too heavy, and it actually broke and snapped the pin right here that the swing out swung on. So this whole bumper and setup situation right now may change in the future. I'm thinking about designing and building a whole new bumper, but we'll see how that goes. Currently, right now, I still have the swing out for the full-size spare, but without this swing out, I did lose my ability to carry my 10-gallon can of extra fuel, and then I had a handy jack as well right here. A couple other little quick things. I'll go into some more of the details on this stuff later, but I have my air out, one of my air outputs here, and then I have a connection down here as well for my solar panel, my Redarc solar blanket that I can move around. All right, guys, I've got the doors open here. Sorry this is kind of in the way, but it's a pain to take out, and so anyways, you guys get the idea. So here I have a friction slide drawer. Now, I didn't do anything special here, mainly because I haven't completely decided how I want to finish this area underneath the bed, so this is kind of a temporary setup. But the way it is right now is in this drawer is where I keep tools. So I have a complete DeWalt tool set in here. Then I have various other tools, things that I just know that I've used on the van from time or two that isn't part of this toolkit. I have a impact. I have also a torque wrench in here, bottle jack. I also have recovery gear like kinetic strap, tree straps, shackles, everything I need, you know, pretty much a lot of the things I need to recover the van. I've got some spare parts like fuses in here and just various other things. Now on this side of the drawer here, that's just kind of empty. This is where I store some of the things like you see outside here, like my external stove, table, and cooking pans I keep in this spot right here. Now also while I'm back here, I'm just going to show you guys this. So I made these window coverings. These are not something I bought. I actually made these, and these help just kind of block out the sun, give me some privacy, but I can take them off. They just got little loops up here, and they can just basically pop off like that. They've got a little slit cut out here for the latch. Now these are pop-out windows. My van didn't come with pop-out windows, so I have a video on that as well that I'll have in the description that shows me installing the pop-out windows. And then what I did is I installed a screen around, which I also made myself, that goes around, and it basically is designed in such a way that I can open the window and close the window without moving the screen or having to take the screen down, so that's super convenient. All right, so coming around to the passenger side of the van, to me this is kind of the living space of the van when I'm at camp and I'm doing things outside. So I have a 99-inch CVT awning. This is just a basic, you know, the old style basic awnings that we've seen. You know, I've thought about upgrading a few times to like maybe a 270 or some of the newer awnings, but the reality is I just really like the way that once this thing is folded up against the rack, it just doesn't take up much space. And a lot of those 270s and other types of awnings that make a bigger space, they're just so bulbous on the side. So this one works for my purposes, so I'm pretty happy with it. I have it tied out in a certain way that this side ties out to the bumper, this side ties out to the wheel, so I never have to try to figure out stakes or anything like that. Got, like I said, when I'm set up, this is the cooking stuff that I usually store in the back of the van. I have it set up here so that way, you know, I've got my little prep table, cook stove, works out really well. So like I said, here on the door, I've got a little prep table. This table folds up and down so that way, you know, I can close the door and gives me a nice place to prepare food and cook and everything. I've got a little tray up here that just I keep random stuff, knives, soap for my geyser system, extra glasses, things like that. On this side I have a cabinet that I built. Inside here I keep my French press. I have a bush pot where I do water. I also sometimes keep spare paper towel rolls in here. Across here I have my seasonings. I've got salt and pepper and then some various Dano seasonings. In this area here I keep my Woodinville whiskey. I've got vitamins and minerals. I keep some cups and some other various items. On the far side over here, I keep my utensils. I've got a fairly basic set of utensils. So spoon, spatula, wooden spoon, and tongs, pretty much all I use. Keep my chainmail for cleaning cast iron and anything else. And then down below here, I have a couple pot holders. And then on this side here, I just keep a towel. Okay, a couple quick notes of some things I have down low here is on the other side of the van, I had installed a 7-gallon RV style propane tank. And that propane tank supplies propane for my cooking and my heating in the van. But I've got a couple quick connects out here so that way I can run my Timbo test fire pit and then also run my external cooking stove. On this side of the van, just up underneath between the body and the frame, I have installed my Viair 400P air compressor. That runs into a 5-gallon volume tank that I have installed where the old spare tire location used to be. And then that runs my air system on the van, so I can use that for airing up tires. And because of the volume tank, I can also, you know, just kind of have plenty of air to blow things off, like I can blow dust and dirt off the bike when it's been riding on the back. All right, so we're going to talk about the rack a little bit now. Now, I'm not going to go into a ton of detail on the rack because I'm going to have a full video on the rack itself. I just redid this rack. This is actually the third rack that I put on here. The first rack, the mounts broke. The second rack was fine, but I wanted to see if I could kind of lighten things up. So I built a new rack out of aluminum extrusion, and I really like it. And I'm going to go into more detail on another video on that. So we'll talk about that then. But not only do I really like it, but it was a fairly inexpensive, as far as building a rack for a van goes. It was a fairly inexpensive solution. So we'll talk about that in a future video. But up here on the rack, we'll talk about some of the things we got going on. So right up front, we have a 200-watt solar panel. That's a fixed solar panel, so it's just on the van all the time. You can see here I have a foldable solar panel from Redarc. This is the one that plugs into the back bumper, and I can move it around as the sun is wherever it's at. So it just really helps me take most advantage of the sun, especially when I'm sitting in places like this. I've got my recovery boards here. These are Tread Pros. I've had them for a long time. Decent recovery boards. So great there. I have another little small just rack that's up here, and this is where I keep firewood sometimes if I'm cutting firewood and wanting to take that to camp. I also keep my chainsaw most of the time stored right here. Underneath this, I have a Thule box that is for extra gear. A lot of times it's fairly empty. I do keep a fire pit in there, and I also keep oils for the van, like spare motor oil, transmission oil, radiator fluid, all those extras in there. But for the most part, the core of it stays fairly empty, so that way if I'm going to do something where I'm taking gear that is not normal to gear that I keep in the van all the time, I have a place to store it, so it's not just loading up my living space down below. I also, the antenna on the back is a high boost, a cell phone booster. You know, a lot of people will have questions about that. And, you know, the thing is, they work great as long as you are in a place that has some signal. The main thing with the cell phone booster is it helps when I'm inside the van. So if I'm just barely getting signal in a location and I can get things to load outside, but once I step in the van I can't, that's where the high boost really comes in handy. And then, of course, you know, the things I've already talked about. I've got the awning hooked up here. I have a rear light that we'll talk about more later. You know, I've got my front light bar. I've got a couple side lights so I can get some lighting off the side. I got my shower system. And then, like I said, I've got my shovel and axe holder mounted to the rack. This concludes the exterior part of this walk around. From the images I'm showing you now, you can see Sasquatch has taken me to a lot of amazing remote locations. And I really look forward to exploring many more awesome places with this van. Be sure to check out the next video where we'll go over in detail the interior of the van. Until then, make sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification so that you can follow along with our adventures. And I'll see you guys again outside.